There's no doubt after this episode of The Promised Neverland that the orphan children of the Gracefield house are absolutely bad-ass. The Great Escape finally begins in this incredibly tense and amazing episode of The Promised Neverland. Spoiler warning, make sure to go check out the episode before you watch this review, as I'm going to be talking about all of the juicy bits, and this episode was absolutely filled to the brim with them. This was a great episode which completely subverted my expectations of what was possibly going to happen as Emma and Ray try to escape from the Gracefield house with all of the children, and surprisingly, the escape takes place in this episode. They waste almost no time in allowing it to happen, and it was one of the coolest things that I've seen from the entire series. It also reaffirmed that despite the fact that these are children, they are incredibly resourceful and amazingly badass, especially because at first they just kind of made it seem like only the older kids were sort of in on this entire escape plan, but this episode reveals that there's actually been something secretive going on behind the scenes. Despite the fact that Emma has been putting on this act like she's incredibly depressed after Norman left, this has all been a part of her plan to actually trick Mother Isabella. She's actually been secretly training all of the young kids, telling them about the plan, the fact that they're going to be sold to demons, and that one day they're going to have to escape, and it's going to be their only chance to make it to the outside world. And this plan was genius, especially because Emma actually managed to keep these details away from Ray. And this is probably a good thing because Ray's plan was just absolutely insane. His overall plan was that he was just going to burn the entire house down, allowing all of the children to leave, acting as a distraction to Mother Isabella, and in order to distract her further, well, he was just going to light himself on fire. And it almost seems like that happens in this episode, but luckily Emma is able to save him at the last second, and this is when we get the big reveal about her plan, how the other children are in on the entire situation, and then things truly escalate in the craziest way possible. The fire starts, Emma starts screaming at the top of her lungs, and Mother Isabella races downstairs to find the entire dining room on fire, and she's under the impression that Ray lit himself on fire and started all of this, as she even looks at her radar and she can see that he is clearly somewhere in this giant smoldering fire. This is the perfect opportunity for all of the other children to start running away, as they now all know about the plan and they've been perfectly trained, and even Emma uses this as a chance to escape and even throws off Mother Isabella by, believe it or fucking not, cutting off her ear. The ear that has the tracker in it. So Mother Isabella actually gets tricked running into this other hallway, realizing that she went to crazy lengths in order to get these kids out of the orphanage. Even Ray ends up doing the same thing, or at least that's the implication, as it was his ear that was actually thrown into the fire. The episode ends with all of the children getting ready to make their escape when suddenly Ray realizes that some people are missing. We cut back to the house, which is being burned down, with Mother Isabella taking it all in, when suddenly she feels some tugging on her dress, and it's none other than the creepiest kid on the fucking planet, Phil. It looks like they left him behind. I don't know if this is actually a part of their plan or not, but if they did do this, this is very bold, as Emma made it very clear she still wants to escape with all of these children, but I have a feeling there's something else afoot here, and after all of the twists and turns that I've actually seen from the episodes, I'm willing to bet that there's something going on here, and Phil might actually be the perfect distraction in order to keep Mother Isabella from chasing after the other kids. So, what's the rundown on this episode of The Promised Neverland? This episode escalated so damn quickly. It was amazing how it all actually played out too, as again, they always managed to trick the viewers in a number of different ways, especially for the fact that Ray himself came up with this amazingly crazy plan to light himself on fire and act as a massive distraction, allowing everyone to leave. It is revealed, of course, that Norman knew that this was going on the entire time. He was actually able to relay all of this information to Emma by presenting Dawn and Gilda with these items, which are going to be instrumental in allowing them to escape and, of course, distracting Mother Isabella, such as switching out her keys and not even allowing her to get into her special room. Even after Norman's death, even after leaving the series, he still leaves such a massive impact on these characters. In fact, I almost shed a tear during that scene where they make it to the wall at the very end, and Emma is the first one there, and suddenly Norman just appears right next to her. For a second, I thought maybe he somehow escaped and this was all a part of a crazy convoluted plan to allow him to live and be a part of the group, but no, he is basically just there in spirit. But that moment just absolutely absolutely rocked me to my core. It was just insane. I think I really love this episode too because Ray fully realized how dedicated and fucking insane Emma is when it comes to actually following through with a plan and coming up with something that was very secret. And seeing that all play out in this episode was just so freaking incredible. It was also really great to see Mother Isabella get knocked down a peg or two because she's just so overly confident and arrogant about everything, and she literally gets to see everything that she's been fighting for burning in front of her eyes, and then suddenly she's distracted by young Phil there. Again, I don't know what the deal is with Phil, if this is all sort of like a plan to actually distract her. It makes me wonder if some of the other younger children are still there, such as the babies, because I really didn't see too many of them running away at the end with a lot of the older kids. It seems like it was more of the more athletic kids that were actually deciding to make it out, and I don't know why they decided to actually leave a couple of people behind if that is what's truly going on, but if they do leave Phil here, that's going to have some big repercussions for the series, and it makes me wonder if maybe Emma or Ray are desperately going to want to try and go back and maybe collect him so that they can all escape at the same time. This episode also had some really great visuals going for it. I think one of the greatest things about Promised Neverland is that a lot of the characters can have these really insane, over-the-top facial expressions. We got a lot of those from Ray and from Mother Isabella in this episode. Sister Crone is not the only one who can look like a crazy freaking psycho. I also like that they followed up on that scene from the end of the last episode where Emma just had the most determined look on her face, and then she just suddenly switches back to being this cute, adorable little girl. But despite the fact that she does come across as just a cutesy anime character, she cut off her own fucking ear, and like doing it in just a matter of a couple of seconds just to trick Mother Isabella, that was pretty freaking hardcore right there. That immediately already makes her one of the coolest protagonists that I have ever seen from just about any other series. I especially loved all of the twists in this episode of learning that this has all just been a part of Emma's plan. She's been really depressed for the last couple of episodes, and it's really just all been a way to throw off Mother Isabella. That's one of the cornerstones of the Promised Neverland, are these crazy strategies that they managed to come up with, and the fact that they're concocted by young children speaks volumes for the maturity of these kids. That's why Emma actually decided to save all of them and start giving them this information, knowing that while they are young and they know nothing about the world, they're still very smart and they're mature enough to know about what's really going on in this world, and it really ended up to their benefit. Also, the plan of Ray's body being burned, which was basically just like a shirt, some braided hair, and a bunch of lunch meat, was genius and hilarious all at the same time. It's amazing how something so simple could actually trick Mother Isabella, but again, I think that was just all a part of the plan with the panic and the fire. I almost thought they were going to do something a little more extreme, like maybe even trying to trap her in the room and have her just burn to death. But no, that would probably just get the attention of the demons. All I have to say, it's incredibly disappointing that Norman couldn't be a part of the actual escape. Getting to see Ray and Emma escape was great. I was almost fully convinced that Ray was going to die in this episode in an extremely violent fashion, and luckily it didn't go down that way. Emma refuses to allow any more of her friends to die, which is why seeing Phil at the very end of the episode I think was just such like a big moment. I don't know where this is all going, but I really cannot wait to see how they're going to wrap up this season. I am loving this series, and this is one of those episodes that I think completely paid off, especially for how unexpected it was, as the beginning of the episode made it seem like, well, we're gonna escape probably in the next episode, but boom, Ray's like, nah, we're doing this shit tonight. This episode was awesome from a production standpoint, from a character standpoint, from the tenseness, from the animation, the artwork, just everything just fucking worked in this episode, guys. I loved it, which is why I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. You guys need to check it out, and I'd love to get your thoughts about it, and you can tell me all of them in the comments section below. What did you think about the great escape in this episode? What did you think about Emma and Ray cutting off their own ears? Wasn't that pretty intense? And what's the deal with Phil being left behind? Are they going to try and go get him, or are they going to leave him behind as a distraction? Is that really something that Emma would possibly do? Let's just get a discussion going about this episode in the comments section below. I'll see you all next time, and as always, stay down there, baby.